Ferrari's team boss Fred Vasseur made some strong comments about the championship battle in 2024. Many people thought Red Bull would easily win all season long, but Red Bull has already lost 2 races in just the first 6 races, which shows things might be different this year. Ferrari is planning some car improvements for the Imola race, and they're going to test these improvements 1 week before the race at a test track. This means Ferrari is trying to get as much information as possible to beat Red Bull for the rest of the 2024 season. But McLaren made a huge improvement in Miami, and Red Bull has their own upgrades coming, so this could be the big change we've been waiting for. It's clear that Ferrari will be one of the most watched teams at Imola because they're bringing their first upgrade package of the season. Ferrari is the only team that hasn't upgraded their car yet, but that's about to change in the next race. The gap between Ferrari and Red Bull has stayed pretty small, which is good news. But Ferrari doesn't want to be the second best team. They want to be the fastest team and maybe even bring a championship-winning car in 2024. Instead of waiting for new rules to come later. When talking about what they expect from these upgrades, Fred Vasseur had high hopes and said that Red Bull isn't as comfortable as they were last year, when it didn't matter what happened in the race after the second lap. He thinks better race management is something they need besides the upgrades because it's a chance for them to take advantage. If they can take another small step forward, he thinks they'll really be able to fight with Red Bull every single weekend. This is way better than what people expected at the beginning of the season, because Ferrari's goals were just to keep improving steadily and make sure their upgrades would help them fight Red Bull either at the end of 2024 or the beginning of 2025. But since the start of the year, Ferrari, the team that people criticized for starting the season with a car that was too careful, has made huge progress with tire management. They did a one-stop strategy with Leclerc in Japan, but then went to the complete opposite extreme of not being able to warm up their tires in China, which hurt their performance. What this shows is that the team figured out one of their biggest problems, which is how fast the car goes over long distances. Even though Leclerc still couldn't pass Verstappen, even when the Dutch driver's car had floor damage that his team said cost him 1 to 2 tenths of a second per lap, we shouldn't make quick decisions just because Miami is over and Imola is coming up next. The upgrades are really exciting and will probably focus on most of the parts that control airflow, not just to make the car's airflow better, but also to create more downforce. This means that besides the side pod design that will be somewhat inspired by Red Bull's RB20 car, even though both cars are going in different development directions, the SF24 will have a new and improved side pod inlet and a redesigned floor. As well, we should also pay close attention to what type of front wing the SF24 starts the race with, because as we saw with McLaren in Miami, even though most of the downforce comes from the floor, and that's where the biggest emphasis is put, the front wing won't be ignored because it's really important for the overall aerodynamic balance of the car. Even so, Vasseur still thinks the top teams are all working in a very close range and they can't expect an upgrade that would give them a whole second of better performance like what happened with McLaren in Miami. Ferrari is expecting to add a couple of tenths of a second to their car, and this would be the first of 3 big upgrade packages that Ferrari has planned for their car. But it's worth mentioning that Red Bull won't just sit still. They'll be adding lots of upgrades to their own car. When talking about what to expect from the SF24 in terms of better performance, Vasseur said he's sure that in Imola they'll have a better race by putting everything together. He knows that many teams have brought updates to these races, but they finished ahead. They're at the point in developing the car where if you bring something, it's not a matter of seconds, but of tenths. It's not like a few years ago when everything brought 3 to 4 tenths. McLaren brought upgrades to Miami, but it's not like it was half a second faster than everyone, without a doubt. They'll be able to fight for victory in Imola, but he believes there's a gap that changes from track to track and from tire compound to tire compound, which makes more of a difference than an update. They must focus on their job, which is making the most of what they have. The upgrade they'll bring to Imola will certainly help, But it doesn't all depend on that. This is pretty much the same opinion that Charles Leclerc has, saying that this current upgrade package is so important that it could tell Ferrari where they're going to be headed for the rest of the season. Obviously, a team knows whether they've taken the right path or not by looking at the upgrade package they've put on their car, and Ferrari will do testing at Fiorano circuit to see whether the upgrades are working or not, while many people said this was illegal because Ferrari would be testing an upgrade package before they even hit the track at Imola. It's worth mentioning that someone from the FIA will be there at this 100-kilometer event that both drivers will take part in, which means there's nothing illegal going on here. It's allowed by the rules if there's an official representative from the governing body to watch the entire process closely. This is definitely a huge step in the right direction for Ferrari, and you can't help but notice the great work that has been done by Fred Vasseur in the past couple of years. If these upgrades turn out to work, then having Adrian Newey, although warmly welcomed and really exciting, might not be as needed as they originally planned a couple of weeks ago. After all, the British mastermind would have to fit into a team that is already working without him in a certain way, and while it would be a huge boost to have him on your team, it might not be something you'd want to go for in an all-in way. Besides that, Ferrari would have to pay close attention to where Red Bull would be moving with their own upgrade package, as Verstappen and Perez would be getting the second part of the upgrade that started in Suzuka and will be finished in the upcoming Grand Prix. This is very important because it marks Red Bull completing their switch to a new design and concept, meaning that if they reach another level that the rest of the teams will be forced to chase, it could very well mean that we should wait until 2026 before we see a competitive season in front of us. And there's always the hidden threat from McLaren, of course, who made a massive step in Miami and will have two cars instead of one like they had the previous weekend with the full upgrade package in Imola. Piastri's car has been called the Lightning McLaren in Imola by Zak Brown. And while Ferrari's goal is to fight Red Bull for first place in both championships, there's a big threat that they could be facing a fight for second place with McLaren as well. This is something that 2009 world champion Jenson Button has noticed, further adding that the connection between the simulator and the on-track data seems to be amazing at McLaren. The upgrades they had last year at Silverstone made a massive difference in terms of where the team developed their car. It did what it said it would do, and that's the most difficult thing in Formula One. He thinks in the next couple of races, we're going to have an eye on them the whole time, and Red Bull is going to have their eyes on McLaren as well. Not just Ferrari. So now it's very different in the way of thinking because coming into a race weekend now, Red Bull knows that they'll be challenged by two teams, and the strategy would have to change a little. They've got to be ready the whole time. With this in mind, do you think that Vasseur's comments are true and they could have a chance to fight Red Bull more often for race wins? Let us know what you're thinking in the comments below, and once you've done that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.